Kayla here. Welcome back to another video. Are you one of those people that think to yourself, oh my gosh, I had so much more energy when I was in active restriction, when I was on some kind of diet, when I was in the midst of my disordered eating, when I was, over exercising? Why did I seem to have more energy when I was there in a caloric deficit, when I was starving myself, when I was overall miserable, mentally, physically, and emotionally, yet I still had more energy then than I do now? Say, you may be in your recovery now, whether it's earlier on or whether it took a few months for you to get winded and exhausted, like I talked about in the other video. So it was either prolonged, or it happened earlier on, or it happened right off the bat, right when you started eating more food, more carbs, more fats, more proteins, more amounts, more calories in general, and you took on recovery. So now, you feel more exhausted, you feel more tired, you feel more weak, you feel more joint pain, you feel more pain in your feet, in your knees, swelling in your feet, in your knees, in your face, in your hands, all over the place, in your back. And so you're wondering, why does this happen now when I'm supposed to be recovering and I'm actually supposed to be healing? Shouldn't I have more energy now that I'm taking in more energy? Yeah, it makes sense, right? So am I doing something wrong? Was restricting actually better for me because, or should I go back to restricting because I felt so much more energy then? So, things like these. And I remember thinking the same thing. It sent me back in my recovery. It sent me back into a couple of relapses. It kept me stuck in quasi-recovery for quite some time. So, because I thought that I was just becoming unhealthy. I thought that I was just losing my fitness, that all the fitness that I'd worked hard for. I thought that I was just, becoming unhealthy and I blamed it on the body fat. I blamed it on that, saying, I have more body fat and that's why I'm getting more winded and exhausted. And that's why I'm tired all the time. And see, at a lower body fat percentage, I was healthier. But really, if we're honest with ourselves and we look back, because our brain tends to forget the bad. And so if we look back and be honest with ourselves, we remember that there was something that pushed us into choosing recovery. And that was probably because you were miserable in all these other areas in your life, but yet you're focusing on the one or two good things that you got from it. Good things, right? So you got that false sense of energy. So it's not real sustainable energy. That's what I want to talk about in this video of why. Remind yourself every day that you are choosing recovery, because you do have to choose recovery every day. Especially when those thoughts are strong, tempting you and screaming at you to go back to restricting, to go back to over-exercising, to control the situation because you feel out of control and you feel like you're, losing something that you've had for so long, even though it's not been good for you, right? That's going to scream really loud when it is losing power. But that doesn't mean it has to win the battle, no matter how hard it screams. Deep down what you're doing and why you're doing it, and so you choose recovery again and again and again until you recover. So anyways, that's off topic, but so I wanted to talk about why are you feeling more tired now in your recovery versus when you were in active restriction. So even if you were just, in ketogenic, if you were paleo, if you were low carb, or you were high fat or low fat, or, low sugar, no bread, no pasta, no, oil, no salt, all of these things, okay? Or if you were in anorexia, you were orthorexic, you were bulimic, okay? So all of these things, right? Doesn't matter, okay? You're still, starving your body in some way. And just because the behavior may not be the same, or the mindset behind it might not be the same, you're still doing detriment to your body. There's a couple things that I want to talk about. So number one, of course you're going to feel more tired in recovery because You're coming from years and years of starving yourself and overworking your body and not giving it enough energy to make up for all of the breakdown of muscle tissue. So you weren't fueling your body properly enough for the amounts of exercise that you were doing. So of course your body is going to go in like hibernation mode for some time, and it's going to want to rest. And as long as it wants to, it's going to create that fatigue and rest response, or that communication to rest on purpose, until it heals properly and heals enough and it gets enough energy in. So when you're taking in energy and you're trying to not even only use those calories to maintain day to day like a normal person, you're using all that energy to make up for all the damage that you're coming from over-exercising, from the stress of malnourishment, from malnourishment itself. Of course, you're going to be tired from some time in recovery, for some time as in months, maybe a year even, like however long it takes. It is what it is, and it's going to take as long as it takes. So don't worry, just be in the now and embrace it. And it'll happen. It will happen. Things will get better. You will overcome this tiredness and fatigue. Like I was saying, your body is going to, as a rebound effect from all of the stress for years and years that you put your body through of over-exercise and under-eating, that in recovery, it finally has the chance to rest for once. So your body's going to try to take advantage of that. So why does it feel like it has an opportunity to rest? Well, in restriction, active restriction or over-exercising, so we don't have enough energy coming in to make up for that energy expenditure, the body senses that it's in a scarce environment. So calories are scarce, kinds of foods are scarce, variety of foods are scarce, the proper balance of carbs, fats, sugars, proteins are scarce. So what that does is it triggers this response in the brain to move. So to move to survive. Because if you rested or if you slept too much when you were starving or malnourished, that pretty much meant death. So, your brain has this in it to try to protect you, way back in the day, because it doesn't realize, the modern day, it's changed so drastically. So it thinks we're still back, before we had access to all these grocery stores on every corner and Amazon and like all of these different sources that have created a lot of convenience, right? This response to compulsively move, to compulsively exercise, to compulsively be doing something, and those thoughts that are produced to burn more calories or to be always moving or to be fearful of calories or be fearful of sitting too long or feel guilty for missing a workout, feel guilty for not going to the gym when you were scheduled to typically. These are all as a response to your body and brain thinking that it's in this scarce environment and that it needs to move to get away from the scarce environment that there's not enough food and calories and energy, and it needs to move ASAP for your survival in order to find an environment that is an abundance. So an abundance of food. So that's why it creates that false sense of energy, because it's not like real sustainable energy. That's why you were miserable on top of feeling more energy. And on top of it, if you felt a lot of pain, the pain response actually gets suppressed, because if you felt too much pain in your legs or your arms from moving too much or from too much muscle tissue breakdown, which happens when you're constantly moving, trying to find a new abundant source of energy, a new abundant environment, what's the natural response to pain and inflammation and swelling? To rest, right? To stay off of that until you feel better, until that goes away, until that heals. So the body also suppresses that pain response, because then it means death, because you don't get to that new environment quick enough. So that's why, it wants it quick too. So that's why you feel energy all throughout the day. Perhaps you can't sleep at night because the body and brain is like, no, we can't sleep. We can never sleep until we get to that new environment with, a lot of food. Now, this isn't for everyone. Some people slept great in their restriction or overexercise, and then in recovery they have insomnia. So this isn't for everyone, but this can explain for people who do feel these sensations in their recovery versus restriction. But it doesn't justify the restricting. It doesn't justify the overexercising as being healthy for you. Because remember, if you really look back, look at all the negatives that drove you into recovery. Okay, the ED brain will try to come up with all these great excuses of why you should go back to restricting or over-exercising, and they're lies, okay? The real you wants to recover. The real you was drawn to recovery sources and asking questions and questioning why you were feeling bad in all these other areas of your life, right? So really, out of all of it, your body is just sending that communication signal. That's how it can communicate to you, right? So we're trying to learn how to be intuitive, right, or normal, and really all that means is listening to our body. So although the body can't communicate verbally to us like we are consciously, that's how we communicate, but the body communicates with, by producing hormones such as hunger and satiety cues, which are fueled by hormones leptin and ghrelin. So the same thing with fatigue. Those are signs, those are communication signals to rest, that something needs to be addressed and it needs rest. That's why in recovery, that's your new environment. Once you start eating more because you're like, oh my gosh, I need to recover, you found some source that, you realize that you need to eat more and rest. So you took on recovery, and that's why when you start to eat more and rest and you're not, still compulsively exercising, and you show your body by communicating to your body that, there's a lot of food that's going to be coming in now. So the body and brain gets that signal that it is able to rest finally because it's found its an abundant environment, which is just recovery. It doesn't know that it's in the same environment that it's been in. All it knows is that environment is scarce, environment is abundant because of what has been happening. You'll see as time goes on, for some it's quicker, for others it's longer. A lot of people report like 10 months, a year, even a year and a half when they start to finally feel all of that energy coming back. And that's not to say that's going to happen for you. It really all depends on where you're coming from, the state of your body, how committed and fully embraced you are in the recovery process. Really, it's as simple as that. So maybe by understanding this, it will ease your mind a little bit about those thoughts that pop up telling you that what you're doing is wrong, what you're doing is bad, what you're doing is unhealthy. What you're doing is actually the most healthiest thing you can do right now. You can't compare yourself to someone who isn't coming from a past of restriction, who isn't coming from a past of over-exercising and yo-yo dieting for years and years, or anorexia or any of that. You're in your own lane, right? So just because somebody else out of ignorance says, if you're not moving, that's why you're feeling tired all the time, or if you're not, you're not moving, so that's why you're becoming unhealthy, or all of these mindsets that are pretty common in our culture. You're different, okay? You're not healthy enough to exercise yet. What you need is to rest. And just know it's not that the food is bad. It's not to blame the food. Orthorexia people thinking like, oh, see, it's the carbs. Oh, see, it's the fats. Oh, see, it's the processed foods. They're not good for me. They're making me tired. I was better off before. I had so much energy. No, it's really because your body is finally sensing that there's abundance of food coming in and that it can finally rest. So out of all of it, your body just feels safe finally. It's felt constantly in that fight or flight mode, like survival mode, trying to just survive. And so that's why it's been telling us to move, compulsively move all the time. If you ever sat down and you felt guilty all the time, or you just always felt the urge to move, or you had the energy to move, that's why. So now your body is starting to feel safe. Doesn't feel completely safe yet, but that comes slowly over time. But it just means that your body is starting to feel safe. And so it's really a positive thing. So try to look at it as a positive thing. These things can help to understand what's going on, so then you can feel more at ease and not so guilty. And just realizing that, you're nursing yourself back to health, and you deserve every bite, you deserve every second of rest. And you need it, okay? You're different from someone else. You are coming from a lot of damage and depletion and malnourishment, energy deficit, and you're making up for all of that. Listen to your body and find your balance. Do you see this? The man Canyon, Chad, made this for me for Christmas because as some of you may know, some of you are in my course, Find Your Balance, Break Free from Palsy Recovery. So that's the logo. He knows how important it is to me, so he made this for me. What do you guys think? Would you guys wear one of these? Would you guys rock these? Let me know in the comments below if you like these and you would wear one of these. Maybe I could get him to make more and put them on the site. I like, conscious consuming if it means something positive, rather than just wearing something that has no meaning. So that's more of what it means to me too. So if you guys want that, let me know. So I want to just really quickly tell you a story, because in my, the beginning of recovery, I didn't know what was going on still. And I was blaming the food because I was coming from, severe restriction. Just got off a water fast after being raw vegan, and then into vegan for a long time, and then into, ketogenic. And I had just come from all of those things trying to heal myself that did not heal me. After that, it was several months after, and I was just still trying to be a clean eater, right? This was this place where I was out of control, right? So I was fed pasta. And oh my gosh, I was kicking and screaming, but that's all I had access to. Long story short, I won't get into the details. If you want to read more about that, it's in my book. But I was kicking and screaming. I was pissed off that I even had to eat that. But I did. I ended up eating it. It wasn't even good at that point because I was so pissed off that I had to eat that, even though deep down I love pasta and I love pizza and I wanted all of that, but I thought it was bad. And so I told myself that I didn't like those foods anymore, that it was just the parasites that liked it, or it was my food addiction that liked it, and blah, blah, blah. So, and they were evil and bad and off limits. But so I ended up having another bowl of pasta because I was like, oh, this is kind of good. And I was really hungry. So I had that. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept through the night like a baby. And I wasn't up at 4 or 5 a.m., just wide awake and thinking about food, So for the first time, I had felt that. But my brain was this is bad. There's seriously something wrong. And I felt so guilty because I thought that because I was so tired and lethargic the next morning that, I had just ruined everything. And that I thought that I just, was terrible, and that food was terrible. And I used that to justify, see, those cooked foods, those processed foods, those carbs, the cheese, that's all bad for me because it made me feel tired and lethargic. But that was just the beginning. And after that, I had awoken that beast of binging, and I was just I couldn't go back after that. I tried to for so long, for months and months. I tried to go back and forth between clean eating and then binging because my body got a sense of that. It was oh my gosh, we have access to real food. Eat a lot of it. And then I was able to sleep more. And then it was a rebound effect. And then later on, I was starting to not be able to sleep because I was so hungry and I had to keep getting up to eat before bed and then in the middle of the night. So just keep that in mind too. It can fluctuate throughout your recovery. But this is just to touch on, why you may feel more tired now in your recovery versus back when you were restricting. And active restriction, active malnourishment, active starvation. I tried to blame the foods. I tried to blame the gluten and the bread and the sugar and the carbs and the fats and, tried to blame all of that, the processed foods, blah, blah, blah. Those were the things that healed me. So after the months and months of going back and forth, I finally let go and committed and, ate those foods all the time, every day, all day, and I still do. And that's how I recovered. So they're not bad for you like we've been told. Okay, you need to eat. You need to eat a balance of those foods. And in a coming up video, I'm going to talk about the benefits of processed foods in recovery. Okay? So if you guys want to hear about that, let me know in the comments below too. I hope that this video has helped you. I could go more into depth, but for this video, I want to keep it at that. Just remember, your body is starting to feel safe. So don't try to run and hide and be pushed away from recovery because of this disordered eating, starved brain. that's scared of recovering because then it dies. I hope that that eases your mind a little bit more. I wanted to read this message that I got recently, and I felt like this just resonated with this topic. So to not hear it just from me, but other people too. And this is only one of the many, stories, success stories that I've heard from other people. So she was saying, I'm 16 months into recovery and I finally feel like I have normal energy. I have the energy to exercise in ways I enjoy, purely to move my body and not out of disordered motives. And my weight has stabilized and is slowly moving back to my set weight point. But even after over a year, there are days that I just want to lie in bed and watch TV for hours on end, something I considered lazy and undisciplined in the disordered eating or eating disorder. How sad is that? And I understand that as part of the resting and healing process. Other days I feel great in the morning, but then quickly fatigue after only 3 to 4 hours of being awake, especially on class days. It's a long process, but it really truly does get better. The pain and bloating will subside, and the fatigue will fade away. Even if you don't rest perfectly, or you still need to take classes or maintain a job or whatever. I hear this a lot, that people say, it does get better. There's testimonies like this all the time. Okay, so you just know that you're not alone. So that's all for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video.